So quick review where we are in government class here, and we have just declared our independence from the British because they taxed us without representation, and then they started violating our rights. And then you had something called the Battles of Lexington and Concord, Second Continental Congress. We got George Washington as the commander-in-chief. They're off to fight the American Revolution, okay? So after the independence is signed, guys, each of these leaders, many of them, like Jefferson, went back to their states and wrote state constitutions. Okay, and I talked about those. They all reflect a desire for limited government. They do not trust government, okay, especially since they just, broke away from a tyrannical one known as British government. There we go. Okay, so what's next? Well, they're gonna write a constitution in 1781 during the American Revolution. Okay, this first constitution is called the Articles of Confederation. Okay, now I don't have any notes on this. I'm just gonna give you a couple. Okay, just because this is only gonna last 6 years, this constitution. Now, I want you to recall when we talked about in the first chapter on 10, there we go. Okay, confederal systems look like this. The national government has very little power. All the power lies with the state and local governments. Again, showing a great distrust for powerful government. Yes? Now, because this national government was so weak, it really had trouble controlling anything. So, like, this national government could not tax. So where are they going to get their money? They're going to have to beg the states for money. Okay? There's only 13 people in the national government. Each state elected one representative. Okay? And they're elected annually. They don't trust them. Okay? So they had this is a one branch government, and it was a legislative branch. So they have no executive branch. Remember this? They don't have the sword. They can't enforce law. Okay? And no judicial branch, which means they can't settle disputes between the states. You need somebody, because, guys, there's going to be a bunch of disputes between the states. You guys know where the Chesapeake Bay is? You don't know where that is? I went sailing on the Chesapeake one year. The Chesapeake Bay is this big thing right here. Up here by Virginia. It goes up into the heart of Maryland. Okay? Now, we've also got this one here. So listen, Virginia controlled, and Maryland controlled the Chesapeake Bay. If other states wanted to use the Chesapeake Bay, they had to pay for it. They said, Pennsylvania, if you want to use it, you got to pay for it. Okay, so let's say we have 13 people in here. Each one of you represent a state. Okay? Salinkly, you're Virginia, you're Pennsylvania, you're Maryland, New York, Jersey, you got over here. South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island. I'm out. I'm sorry, that's 13. Okay? So, you guys start having fights over the borders of your states. Like, where's the border? Start having arguments. You want to pass through my state with goods, you got to pay a fee. So, like, the states with good seaports, they were fleecing their neighbors. They had arguments over navigation rights, all kinds of stuff. All these fights between these 13 men. It was a mess. Plus, they were in debt. Now, there were a lot of people in debt. Who's Massachusetts? Right here? Max? Massachusetts. You're putting people in jail for not paying their debts. So you're a farmer, and you had a bad year, and you couldn't pay your debts. You're going to jail. Farmers got mad. They started a rebellion against the Massachusetts government. What was it called? Shays Rebellion. Daniel Shays, Emma, you're not a state, are you? You're Daniel Shay. You're wreaking all kind of havoc in Massachusetts with like 800 followers, armed people, and you're trying to shut down the Massachusetts court system. It's like January 6th with guns, okay? And they can't put down this rebellion. They're having a hard time putting it down because the national government is so weak. They're freaking out like this is not working. This is not working. Okay? Now, they did choose one of these 13 to be the leader. So the first president of the United States, of course, was John Hanson. This was a parliamentary system. Remember that? Where the legislature chooses the executive. They chose one of their own to be the leader of the legislative branch. Now, he wasn't really an executive, but he was the leader of the legislature. He was the first president of that government. But he wasn't an executive. He was a legislator. John Hanson. And then there were multiple after him because they had annual elections. It lasted for 6 years. And it failed. Okay, George Washington, who fought for 8 years. Guys, when the American Revolution broke out, George Washington said, I'll be home at Christmas. He got home to Martha 8 Christmases later. When the revolution was over, he came home. Where does Washington live? Where's his house? What's it called? Mount Vernon. Okay? And you guys been to Mount Vernon? I haven't either. Need to go there. Okay. Still there. His house is still there. You can go visit Washington's house. Okay. 8 years later, he comes home. He spent 8 years of his life defeating the British Empire, and now this new country is about to fall apart, and Washington's freaking out. And then this other guy named Alexander Hamilton. You guys remember him? Alexander Hamilton? Any Hamilton fans in here, like of the play, like the musical? None of you guys got into that? Okay. You've heard of the musical Hamilton? Okay. It's based off this book by Chernow. Okay. Now, this is, I could read to you from this, but I'm not going to. Okay. I'm just going to tell you what it says about this. He says that the new government is in debt to the French and the Spanish. We're going to default on this debt. Things are going bad. Okay. The states are tugging at the federal head. This is not working. Okay. Now, Thomas Jefferson, who wrote this document, does anybody know what he does? After he writes this, he is going to be in a new position with this new government. Does anybody know where Jefferson goes? Goes overseas. Goes to France. He's going to be the U.S. ambassador to France. So Jefferson's in France while all this crap is going down. He's got a little protege back in Virginia, this young man who he tutored and helped or was a mentor to. Okay, his name was James Madison. Heard of this guy, James Madison? Madison sees what's going on. He's worried. So Hamilton's worried. Madison's worried. Alexander Hamilton, let me tell you about him during the American Revolution. Let me just tell you a story. Let me tell you about Alexander Hamilton. He was born a bastard child okay, in the Virgin Islands, the American Virgin Islands. The British, they would be the British Virgin Islands at the time. His mother was native there. His father was Scottish. He was on a ship, came to the Virgin Islands, met this woman, had relations with her, and then went back to Scotland. So he was born a bastard child. You understand what that means? Yes? Now that means something in the 1700s. You understand? You are looked down upon.
Is he a bastard?
He's a bastard.
Oh, man.
Okay. Which means you don't have a father. You understand? So if you don't have a father, people say, well, this person's going to be a problem. Okay? And we don't have those type of stigmas today. But it still does matter if you have a dad or not. Okay? Now, he went to work for this guy that ran a big shipping company in the Virgin Islands. Okay? Now, what kind of stuff were they shipping to the Virgin Islands and in and out? Sugar, right? Sugar plantations, molasses, slaves. Okay? I went on a cruise a few years ago with my family. We went to the Caribbean. We went down south to real far south in the Caribbean. And we were on this island called Nevis. And the tour director pointed us to an island that we could see in the distance that was uninhabited, which used to be a slave island, where they'd bring the slaves over from Africa, put them on this island, and then ship them to different parts of North America. Okay. So Hamilton's working for this shipping company. And the guy that ran it wanted to go on a trip to Europe. So when Hamilton was 13 years old, 13 guys, this owner of this big shipping company leaves Hamilton in charge at 13. And when he comes back a year later, that shipping company's running more efficiently and better than when he left. And so a group of wealthy men understood that this Alexander Hamilton guy was super smart. Literally, guys, a genius. Okay, this is the guy that aces the ACT. You understand? Brilliant. They pay for him to come to North America to study law. They sponsor him. They send him up. He shows up at Harvard. And they say, okay, you're going to have to take these many classes. You're going to have to read these books. And you're going to have to internship this amount of time. And Hamilton's like, no. He goes to William and Mary. He says, just give me the books. Give me the law books. He comes back 6 months later and passes the bar. Taking no classes. He just read the books. You understand? This kid is brilliant. When the revolution breaks out, he joins the Continental Army. And he reads some books on artillery. And starts working on artillery in the war. And people notice right away, like, this guy needs to be, like, introduced to Washington. So Hamilton is introduced to George Washington and becomes his right-hand man during the Revolution. So during those 8 years of the Revolution, when Washington was sending letters to the Second Continental Congress, begging them for money, begging them for uniforms, begging them for guns, medicine, all this stuff, most of those letters were written by Hamilton to Congress. Okay, so they become a type. So two really important relationships here. Washington and Hamilton, and Jefferson and Madison. Because Hamilton and Madison are going to become very important in our next step. Okay, when the Articles of Confederation fails, it's going to be these two men, especially Madison, that are going to take up important roles, come up with a new constitution. Okay, so everything I just did right there, guys, was to set up these notes coming up. Okay, the Articles of Confederation was not working. Madison and Hamilton meet in Annapolis, okay, in Maryland, to discuss these problems. And they come up with a solution to some of the fighting amongst the states. But it is agreed that the states need to send delegates for the purposes of changing the Articles of Confederation, fixing it. This government was not working. But once they got together with the 55 delegates, they realized they just needed to scrap that whole Constitution and start over. So as you guys know, instead of having a confederal system, we are going to, with the new Constitution, set up a federal system. To recall, the sharing, division of power between national, state, and local governments. Not like this. So what's going to happen here, guys, is this national government is going to get more powerful. Now, a lot of people don't like that because they don't like big government. But what they had wasn't working. Does that make sense? So who are these 55 delegates? Now, this convention will run through 3 months, the summer months in Philadelphia, 1787. Okay, so the Articles of Confederation was 1781. Okay, now we're going to fix it. This is the hottest summer in Philadelphia in 30 years. There's no air conditioning yet. They're in Independence Hall where they signed the Declaration. They're back in that room. Some of them had signed the Declaration. So 8 of these 55 had signed the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson is not here. Jefferson is in France. Does anybody know where John Adams is? He's an ambassador as well. He's the ambassador to Great Britain, which is so ironic because John Adams, if you remember, was the driving force for the Declaration of Independence. Now he's got to go over and meet with the king, which is kind of funny. Okay, the king doesn't really like John Adams. So, Jefferson's not there. Adams isn't there. But 8 that had signed, 7 had been to the First Continental Congress, 7 were governors of their states. Okay, so we're going to send Governor Laura Kelly away for 3 months to go work on something else, not govern the state of Kansas. That's how important this was, guys. That's how important this meeting was. 7 states sent their governors for 3 months. So this is a big freaking deal right here, okay? Because they're writing a brand new constitution. As you know, what turns out to be the longest living constitution in the world today. The one that we're going to study. This is the room, okay? So this is a who's who. That's James Madison on the left. It's the big dog on the right. Who's there? You kidding me? Franklin's still alive? Yes, Ben Franklin is still alive. Okay? He's the oldest man in the room. When this guy walks into the room, George Washington walks into the room. It's like God walking into the room. This is the most famous person in America, the hero of the American Revolution, guys. So he brings what political scientists would call today gravitas. Ever heard this term, gravitas? Okay, weight, mass, authority, heftiness to it. He brings gravity. Okay, so who are they going to put in charge of this whole thing? General Washington. Okay, he's going to be the president or the chairman of this constitutional convention. Okay, I talked about Jefferson not being there, but also Patrick Henry. And why do I bring up Patrick Henry? Because remember, Patrick Henry's that guy in Virginia. Virginia's very important. That got Virginia to vote for independence. gave that speech. Give me liberty. Give me death. Okay, he's a very influential person in America. He doesn't go to this. He's invited. But he doesn't go because he doesn't want this. He doesn't want a more powerful national government. He's afraid that our liberties will disappear with a powerful national government. So he doesn't even go. He's going to be the biggest critic of this new Constitution. He's going to be like, no. Or in his words, I smell a rat. This isn't good. Okay. All right. So that's your who's who. Okay. Now they're all rich. These are all wealthy people. Okay. There's actually one of the 55. His name's William Few. That's a farmer that wasn't rich. Okay. He was a man of few. Okay. So Washington is named chairman of the Constitutional Convention. Okay. I think somebody borrowed my book and never returned it. It just simply says Madison on it and it's black. Anybody see it? Okay. So anyhow, Madison gets the moniker Father of the Constitution. Where's Madison from? Where? Which state? Remember, he's close friends with Jefferson. Where's Jefferson from? Virginia. Madison's from Virginia. Okay. Why do they call him the father of the Constitution? You know why? Because he comes to this convention with a plan of government already written. So like Hamilton, Madison, guys, you got another genius on your hands. Straight up. Genius. Now, he's about 5'5", 5'6", okay? And he's a sickly little man. Like, he's the bookworm. He's your nerd. He's your prototypical nerd. You know what I mean? Like, he likes to read a lot of books. Okay, by the age of 12, Madison was consuming things that you would consume in graduate school. He studied multiple languages by the age of 12. He understood mathematics. Okay, he understood philosophy. Was brilliant. And he had studied history. So he comes up with his own plan of government. Where's he from? What's the name of that plan? The Virginia Plan. Okay, does this ring a bell? Virginia Plan. Okay, so he comes up with a plan of government. Now, he was the most prepared coming into this convention of the 55. And during the convention, he took notes. We have these notes. Okay? Very detailed notes. In fact, the Virginia Plan was introduced by another delegate from Virginia, Edmund Randolph, instead of Madison. Madison, you'd think, well, I wrote it. I want to introduce it. No, he had somebody else introduce it for him so he could take notes on the reaction of other delegates to his plan. So he took notes and he could counter their arguments with his arguments. Okay? This is why we call him the father of the Constitution. Now, is the Virginia Plan what we have as a Constitution today? The answer to that is no. Madison did not get everything he wants. There's 54 other delegates here that have different opinions. And some of them are very smart as well. So, but they are going to take the Virginia Plan and work from it. Like they're going to use that as a starting base. Okay? So that's why we call Madison the father of the Constitution. Good? Okay. So let's get into what kind of some of the things that they were talking about with this new government. There's your Virginia Plan. That's the actual text of it. Okay. That's Madison's handwriting. So, as I said, drafted by Madison, presented by Edmund Randolph. Okay, on May 29, 1787. Okay. What it called for was a strong national government, much stronger than what they had under the Articles of Confederation. Three branches of government, a bicameral legislature, an executive, and a judiciary. Three branches with a bicameral legislature. Is that what we have today? Yeah, we have that today. Okay. Does anybody remember the competing plan to the Virginia plan? Because there were two competing plans that they're going to vote on. There's another state. I'm trying to remember which one of you. Well, what are you? Are you New York? What's the name of that plan? The New Jersey plan. Very good, Antonio. Okay, so we'll talk about that in the coming slides. Okay. All right. So this is what we don't have today. Okay, so these are some of the things that Madison wanted that we didn't get. Okay, he wanted both legislatures, both houses bicameral, to be based on population. So states with larger populations would get more representatives. And we do have that today in one of our branches, yes? Which one? The House or the Senate? The House is based on population. That's where we get those electors, guys. Okay, over there. Okay. The more people you have, the more representatives you get. Okay. He said that the people would elect one house, and then that house, the first house, would elect nominees that the state gives for the second house. Now, we don't use that today. Okay. But at the beginning, we were kind of similar to this, but not exactly like this. Members of the executive and judiciary would be chosen by the legislature. Now, what kind of system is this? If the legislature is choosing the executive, anybody else? What? Parliamentary. Remember this? You guys remember this? Parliamentary system. You had to be in the legislature to become the executive. They would choose one of their own to be the executive. We don't have this. This is a parliamentary system. Okay? We chose a different route. So just plain facts here, guys. Madison's not going to get everything he wants. Now, this new government is going to be more powerful, way more powerful than under the Articles of Confederation. They're going to have power over the states. The national government is going to be supreme, superior. They can levy taxes, make national laws, and regulate trade between the states and between the country and foreign nations. Okay? This is making it a lot stronger. And our government does all of these things today. So this is your Virginia plan. Virginia's a big state. These states have a lot of people. Okay, Delaware is the smallest state, population-wise. Okay, Delaware is going to be worried about that the more populated states are going to dominate the small states. Follow me? They don't like that. They don't like that. Okay, that's kind of like Kansas being worried that New York and California would dominate. And in the House of Representatives, they do. They dominate. It's based on population. So they're going to try and counter this with a different plan. Of course, that's the New Jersey Antonio plan. Actually, it's a guy named William Patterson. Okay, not Antonio. Okay. All right. Are y'all ready for the New Jersey plan? Are we almost ready? Not yet. So, Linky, you all right?
Trying to stay awake.
You getting in shape?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting there.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving pounds.
Doing some ab work and stuff like that. Sprints,
Yeah, I started
some running.
last week.
You guys start doing some
I
running.
was sore.
Yeah.
Very sore.
We'll keep going.
I know.
Don't stop.
I will tomorrow.
Got a beautiful day, beautiful week. Yeah. Nice weather coming up. Okay. New Jersey. There it is. Okay. They're afraid that states are going to lose power to the national government. Okay. And that the big states are going to dominate small states. So they're going to call for a national government with 3 branches. Good. Power to tax, power to regulate trade. But one's missing here from the previous. Those of you guys that are taking notes can find that. Which one's missing here? National laws. Okay. They're not going to let the national government make laws over the states. Guys, this is where this comes in. Okay? They're going to give some powers here, eventually, right? Not with this plan, but they're going to give some powers here, some powers here, some powers here. They're going to share these powers. They're going to divide these powers up. Okay? This is what they're eventually going to get to. They got to go through this debate. They got to argue about it. Okay? Got to figure this out. Now, they wanted the states to have a stronger role, like under the Articles of Confederation. They wanted a unicameral legislature, not a bicameral, and each state would get 1 representative. So we kind of be back towards what we had here, right? That's not going to work. It didn't work the first time. These representatives would be elected by the state legislature, not by the people. Trust the people. Aren't smart. People are busy. They're trying to farm, do other stuff. They don't have time to think about this stuff. But let the state legislature, who's elected by the people, to elect these representatives. Now, this isn't what we have today either. So you got these 2 completing plans. They're going to vote. Okay, you got to have 9 of 13 states to agree to something in this convention. Going to vote. Here's the vote, June 19th. 7 states vote for the Virginia plan. 3 for the New Jersey plan. 3 are on the fence, like our moderates. No vote. Or their delegations are split. You got to have 9. So, the debate over this will last another month. A whole nother month trying to figure out the differences between the Virginia and the New Jersey plan. And they're going to have to come up with what do you call this in politics? A compromise. What's the name of this compromise? The Great Compromise, Antonio. Remember this, Slinky? The Great Compromise? Yeah. Now, the Great Compromise is a great long answer question on a test. Now, in order to answer that question, you would have to tell me a little bit about the Virginia plan, a little bit about the New Jersey plan, and the eventual compromise. Okay? if you want to get full credit on that long answer. So here it is. Okay. They want stuff based on population. They wanted equal representation for each state in the legislature. So we're going to give you both. And those darn Connecticut folks, they're just, they're a compromising bunch. Okay. They come up with this plan in July 16, and this is what we get with the Great Compromise. Now, this is dealing mostly with the legislature. We're going to figure out the president's executive stuff later. Okay? Other compromises. All right? So, the House of Representatives, how many members are there in the United States House of Representatives? 435. Now, in this first one, there's going to be 65. Okay? We'll go to 435 in 1910. Been over 100 years we've been stuck at 435, which is something we could talk about. We have more, because in 1910 we had 91 million people. Today we have 335 million people. The same number of representatives. We'll talk about that later, okay? So the House will be based on population, voted on directly by the people. The Senate, the other house, each state would get 2. So Delaware, which has the smallest population, and Virginia, which has the largest population, have the same say in the Senate. This protects the small states from the big states. You following me? But guys, this is important because people want to do away with this system. They think it's unfair that California only has 2 in the Senate and Wyoming has 2 in the Senate. That's not fair. Too bad. That's the way they wrote it. They said that states matter. States have protections from big states. That's the way they designed it. So deal with it. Now, under the Senate, guys, each state gets 2, but they're elected by state legislatures. Okay? Not by the people. And in order to pass a national law, a bill has to pass both houses. Now, this is pretty cool, guys. This is the census of 1790. Every 10 years, we do a population count. Okay? 1790. Okay, so Delaware had 59,000 people. All right? 1790. Pennsylvania, 434,000. Virginia, 691,000. So Virginia and Pennsylvania were the largest. And then you got North Carolina, New York, okay? Connecticut's actually pretty big. Massachusetts, Connecticut, okay? Now, is this what we have today? Emily, this is what we have today. You don't know? Adam. Antonio says, shaking his head, no. What's different today? Alan? You get to vote for your senators today. Now, this is what it said originally in the Constitution. Now, if you're going to change the Constitution, you need a what? An amendment to the Constitution. What amendment to the Constitution changes the Senate being elected by state legislatures? Now, the people get to elect them. Which amendment was that? You got a 1 in 27 chance, and I'll tell you it's not in the first 10, so you got a 1 in 17 chance. Not 11. Wrong. Poll tax. 17. Okay? And guys, that had huge repercussions that I will talk about.